Hello everyone, welcome back to my SDL2 on Xcode series. In this tutorial project, we're going to build the classic snake game on Xcode using C and SDL2. This is episode 7. Since we have already set up everything, we are ready to actually develop the snake game. In this episode, we're going to develop a simple menu scene for the snake game. This menu scene is the first scene when you open up the game. Now, to create a scene, I'm going to create a folder called scenes. Let me call a new group. Scenes here. This is a folder that will include all the scenes we have now and later. In here, we're going to develop the first scene. We are going to create a new C file. Let me call it menu. And then click next. And then click create. And that will give us the header file and the C file. In the header file, we are going to give for now only one function. So the scene. So we have menu get scene. That is the only function that exposed for now. And then in here, we're going to implement our menu scene. And this has been done before, and I have created a code snip before. And all I need to do is to drop this code snip so that I can have basically the skeleton of our scene. For that, we are going to set this name for menu. And then here, our expose function is called menu get scene, and that will give us a skeleton to start with. We're going to add more functionality to it, but before that, let's think about how we can displace this menu scene. Now, the suggested way by the engine is that we can use the function called. Let me go to the main function. We can use something called the engine set scene to set the scene to the menu scene. Then our engine will show the menu scene. But this is a little bit weird because now we have our app scene, right? And it is a better idea to actually let this app scene act as a delegate or act as a middleware. Instead of setting the scene all the way to the engine, I'm going to set it to the app. And there was some benefit to that. But before I explain the benefit, let me show you what I mean. So in here, I'm going to include our menu scene here. And then I'm not going to need this one. So in here, I just need to have the one scene. Let's call it current. And then here, because we don't have the label, so I don't need to do the initialization and clean. So I don't need this anymore. So I'm now just cleaning up the code. So I don't need it neither. Now, in the initialization screen, we're going to initialize our menu scene. So we're going to say wt scene menu equals to the menu get scene, and then we are going to initialize it menu. So if this is not correctly initialized, I'm going to return false. Otherwise, we just keep going. And then we set the current scene to menu. And that when we cleared our app scene, we should clean up this menu scene as well. So to do so, I'm going to do, we're going to get this scene as well. And then I will just say wt screen clear our menu scene. That will be the clear function. And for the renderer, we are going to say if the current scene is not null, we're just going to render this one. Scene render, and then current. I think our render scene has the code to check to make sure that the scene to render is not null. So I think that is good. That is good enough like this. Now to update, we're going to dispatch the update to our current scene as well. So update current. Now here we will have we are going to see the benefit of using app as a delegate. We will have some event that will be handled in this app scene because this one, the quick event, is not related to the game. So we will let this one handled by the app scene, and then for the default one, we're going to dispatch the event to our current scene. So wt scene handle event, and then our current scene, and then event. If we have more events that we should control for this, the system events that we want to control, we will just do it here instead of putting them all in our game scenes. So that is another benefit. So one more benefit is that we can initialize the game-related resources using this app here. When we initialize the app scene, we just initialize everything related to game here, and then clear up the stuff in this function. So instead of calling it a scene, maybe it's better to call it a delegate. Now in here, let me change the name to not get scene, but say let me call it delegate. So since that we will need to have another function app, say change scene, that allow us to change the current scene to the given scene here. So let me implement it quickly here. The implementation of this function is not too hard. All you need to do is to set the scene instance dot current equals to scene. At the beginning, let me set our current scene to be null. That means there's no scene. Now, if we run the game now, we should have oops, that should be a comma. We should have a black screen because we have not done anything on our menu scene. Here we go. Next, let's go back to the game menu scene here and try to make more stuff in here. We are going to need what? We are going to need at least a label. It seems that we don't have the label because I need to include the engine first. And then first of all, we need to have a label that let me call it a play label. And then the initialization is here. So let me try to, if not label initialize. If it is not initialized correctly, then we are going to return false. But it seems that it doesn't return anything, so that means it will return correctly no matter what. And let me set this one to our play label. And for the font, we are going to use the font that we get from, let me say, TT a phone manager, get it from the phone manager, get a font, and then the only font we have for now, oops, I cannot see it because I also need to include the result.h in order for us to see the ID. And then we'll put the font here. And for the text, we just put it to be play. And we're going to put the play label at the center of our scene. So let me set it to be scene play label dot area. So let me say SDL. That is our area. Let me set it to be 0, 0, 0. For the width of our label, let me set it to be 100. That should be large enough. And how about 50? So 150. Let me make it even larger. And then we're going to find the X and Y position for our label. To do so, I am going to find the window width and the window height first. WT engine get width, and for the height, okay. And then we are ready to compute the X coordinate. It should be the total width minus this label width, and then divided by 2. That will put it in the center in the X coordinate. We're going to do so for Y coordinate as well. So the height minus the rectangle height, and then over 2. And then we're going to set the label area to be our rectangle. And then in our render function, we're going to render it here. So WT label render. So we put in our scene and then play label. For now, we should have so let's see. Oh, I should say put the pointer here. Now you can see that we have a play label at the center of our scene. Then the background is quite uninteresting because there's nothing there. The next step we're going to do is to fill in something for the background. So for the background, I'm going to make something called background. So texture. I'm going to build a background in our initialization step and then render the background here. So remember that our width of a window is 660 and the height is 360, right? 660 times 360. So if I divide it by 40, because each I'm going to use the glass texture. Each glass texture is 40 in dimension. So if I divide it by 40, I think I have roughly 60 times 9 if I divide it by 40. So I will set int. We have how many rows? We have 9 rows, and we have 16 columns. Now I'm going to set the rectangle to be 40 in size. Okay. Now first of all, we need to create the texture. To create the texture, we are going to use something called create texture. Oops, I think I have it. Copy. I think I have it defined before, so I think I have it here. This one. So let me go back to our menu scene here. So the width should be 640 because 40 times 16, and then 9 times 40 is 360. That would be the total size of the background texture. SDL red. And for this one, I need to have the renderer. So I also need to get the renderer as well. So let me get it. Renderer equals to, we get it from our engine. Get renderer. That will create our background. If the background texture is not created, so if not created, we are going to return false, meaning that we cannot initialize the scene. Otherwise, we're going to draw something on the texture. We're going to say for r equal to 0, r less than 9, row, r plus plus. And then for the columns, we also need to do the this iteration, c less than the column. And then for this one, we are going to set the x to be c times 40, and for the y coordinate, it corresponds to the row times 40. Now, what kind of texture we're going to render? So, texture. For now, to be simple, let me just get only one texture. Wt manage get, and we get it from the texture manager. Texture, oops. And then let's say we're going to get the glass. Let me get only the light 0. I think it's only a green texture. And then we're going to, before we do this, we are going to set the render target to our background. And then we're going to, maybe we should set the blend mode first. Background to be, I think, blend. That is the simplest blend mode. And then this here means that we're going to, if we set the render target to be our background, everything that we draw will be on the background texture. So now I am ready to draw the texture. I'm going to use the render copy. Render copy. Renderer. And the texture is the one we just load. And for the source rectangle we use now to means that we are going to copy the whole glass structure into our background. And for this one, we're going to set the destination rectangle to be this rect. And that should give us the background texture. And when we clear this one, I need to make sure that we clear the texture we create. If the background is created, then we need to destroy it. Background. And then it's a good idea to now make it now. To render it, we will render this before the label. We just say we're going to use render copy again. And this time we will render it to the renderer, engine get renderer. And the texture we are going to render is the background texture. We're going to render the whole background and render to the whole scene. And that will give us something nice as a background. You can see that now I have some background here that is green, and you can see that, well, our label has some black background, and I don't like this in here. So we can easily get rid of that by setting a attribute here. I say I don't want the background to be visible, so let's set it false. And with that set, then our background will be not visible and we only see the play button here. Next, we should hook up this button with a callback function. So to do so, I'm going to get a callback function here. Let me say play label click. So let me put this function at the very end. So static void and then play label click. Let's do nothing for now. Let me at least explain something. Play label click. And then in order to make this work, we need to do two things. First of all, we need to set the callback function for the play label. And this is play label click. And next, we also need to handle the event here. So we say if the event type equals to the click event, that means mouse button down, then I'm going to handle the click of our label, play label, at the position given by this event, button X, and then event of the button and Y position. That should hook up our callback function. Now when we have our scene label here, and if we click anything outside the label, there's nothing happening. But if we click the label, you can see that there's a message saying that play label clicked, meaning that this callback will actually called when you click the label. When we create a game scene, later on, then when we click this play button or play label, we should switch to a game scene to start playing our game. So that is why we need this callback function for this label. Now, that is so much for this tutorial. When we come back next time, we should do a better job drawing the background and draw something that look more appealing. Thank you for watching.